Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. Let's start with the big one, China's nuclear play. Yesterday, we talked about Japan's new defense buildup and the increasingly shaky security balance in the Pacific. Well, that story just got even more tension-filled. A leaked Pentagon report now says China has likely loaded more than 100 intercontinental ballistic missiles, solid-fueled DF-31s, into its new silo fields near Mongolia. Think of it as Beijing's version of the Cold War missile farms the Soviets used to scare the world. The report says China's sitting on about 600 nuclear warheads today and could hit 1,000 before the decade's out. Beijing's response? A familiar one. It's all defensive, and the U.S. should fulfill its own disarmament responsibilities. Translation: we'll build what we want, you go first. The Pentagon report also confirms what U.S. intel watchers have been whispering for months, that China wants to have the ability to fight and win a war over Taiwan by 2027. That's less than 2 years away. Xi Jinping's government insists it still follows a no-first-use nuclear policy, but between this buildup and the PLA's ongoing anti-corruption purges, it's hard to tell which generals are actually in the loop anymore. Speaking of those purges, we've got updates on China's top brass. Xi just promoted 2 new theater commanders, Yang Jibin and Han Shengyan, to full general. These are the guys who would be responsible for running the show if anything went down in Taiwan or the East China Sea. The promotions come while the Central Military Commission is down to just 4 members after its latest graft crackdown. That's like firing half your coaching staff mid-season, but still trying to run the playbook flawlessly. On the water, we're following up on yesterday's talk about China's aircraft carriers. Remember those satellite images showing the Liaoning and the brand new Fujian parked side by side? Analysts now think that wasn't just coincidence. The 2 carriers are prepping for their first joint deployment. The Liaoning just wrapped up a cruise near the Philippines, and the Fujian, the one with the electromagnetic catapults that make it China's first truly modern carrier, just transited the Taiwan Strait. If they sail together, it'll be the plan's biggest operational flex yet. It's the kind of thing that makes every admiral in the Pacific suddenly clear their schedule. Meanwhile, Japan's defense machine is still in overdrive. After hitting its 2% of GDP military target way ahead of schedule, Tokyo's not slowing down. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's team says they're already laying groundwork to push toward a potential 3.5%. The same goal NATO and South Korea are targeting by 2035. That's a stunning change for a country that used to measure its military moves in fractions of GDP. And after last week's diplomatic blow-up with China over a senior Japanese lawmaker's visit to Taiwan, Beijing's warning Tokyo again to reflect deeply on its mistakes. The temperature between those two hasn't been this high in decades. At the same time, the U.S. and its allies are trying to dig themselves out of an industrial hole that China's been filling for years. The Pentagon and Silicon Valley both rely heavily on Chinese batteries, the kind that keep AI data centers humming and drones flying. The latest assessments show Chinese supply chains touch roughly 6,000 U.S. military systems. That's a staggering number. And to make it worse, China just threatened to limit exports of advanced lithium-ion tech. The Trump administration, which once called electric cars a scam, now finds itself pushing battery independence like it's the moon race. And it's not just batteries. Remember yesterday when we talked about Beijing cornering the rare earth metals market? There's an update there too. Washington narrowly avoided a missile production slowdown after China's export restrictions on samarium. That's the heat-resistant rare earth metal used in Tomahawk missile fins. U.S. defense suppliers got a short-term lifeline from an old stockpile in Europe, but that cash will run out soon. The U.S. is racing to fund new domestic processing plants, but those will take years to build. This one's a ticking clock, and Beijing knows it. Now over to the skies and drones. You probably remember our coverage yesterday about China's dominance in the drone market, particularly DJI's chokehold on commercial and public safety use in the U.S. Well, it's official. The FCC just slammed the door shut. No new foreign-made drones allowed. A blanket ban that effectively freezes DJI out of the American market. The announcement had the energy of a tech world mic drop. U.S. companies like Skydio and Brink are already celebrating, and even Trump's FCC chair said they're ready to unleash American drone dominance. Beijing's furious, accusing Washington of discrimination, but the move fits perfectly into this new decoupling era, where every gadget, chip, and battery is suddenly a piece of national security hardware. Speaking of chips, the saga of NVIDIA's H200 AI processors took a new turn. Trump approved limited sales to China with a 25% fee, but Congress isn't having it. Lawmakers Elizabeth Warren and Gregory Meeks are demanding to see every export license and have warned that even these controlled exports could give China's AI systems a huge boost. NVIDIA is reportedly planning to ship between 40,000 and 80,000 chips to Chinese customers before Lunar New Year. If that happens, it'll be the biggest tech policy whiplash since Huawei. And remember yesterday's segment about the U.S. seizing a Venezuelan oil tanker bound for China. That's still causing waves. The ship, the Centuries, was flying a false flag when the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted it off Venezuela's coast. The crude was headed to Chinese refiners. Beijing's calling it a serious violation of international law, and Caracas is calling it piracy. The Trump administration insists it's enforcing sanctions against Venezuela's shadow fleet. It's a diplomatic mess, but it's also a clear sign that the U.S. is tightening the leash on how China sources its energy abroad. Inside China, the headlines look flashy, but the fundamentals still look wobbly. The Hainan Free Trade Port just launched as a $113 billion project designed to rival Hong Kong, promising looser trade rules and tariff cuts. But beneath the hype, China's debt keeps ballooning. Local governments are swimming in more than $20 trillion, and real estate giants like Vanke are hanging by a thread. The company barely avoided default after investors reluctantly agreed to a 30-day payment extension. If Vanke goes down, it'll make the Evergrande collapse look like a warm-up act. Meanwhile, China's trying to sell itself as a tech growth story. AI stocks are exploding again. More Threads and MetaX both went public this month and immediately skyrocketed hundreds of %. Western investors are piling in, treating Chinese AI like the next frontier, even as Beijing quietly warns about overheating. It's an odd split-screen moment. An economy under strain, but a stock market behaving like it's 1999 in Shenzhen. And finally, a quick human rights update. The U.S. just dropped plans to deport Guan Heng, the Chinese national who secretly filmed those Xinjiang detention camps years ago. After pressure from human rights groups and Congress, Homeland Security pulled the plug on deportation, meaning Guan now has a real shot at asylum. It's a rare case where moral clarity and policy actually lined up. Beijing's not commenting, but it's definitely watching. Thanks for being a part of the RH community. Subscribe, leave a positive comment or 5-star review, and, most importantly, help build our network by sharing this.